say like three pairs, Om Sahanavatu,
Okay.
Asato Ma Sadgamaya, and then the Shruti Smriti Prananam. That's three pairs. You want to start that way? Okay. Good evening and namaskar to all. We'll get started. We'll start with some prayers. So let us chant together. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Almighty Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we work together with great energy. May our study be enlightening and fruitful. May we not hate each other. Om peace, peace, and peace be unto all. Om Asito Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lord, lead us from unreal to real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Om peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Sruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram. I bow down to the lotus feet of Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya, who is the abode of Shruti, Smriti and Puranas, and also he is the ocean of compassion, and also who brings happiness to the whole world. So with this we will get started. I am so grateful and glad to have this opportunity to talk about Sādhanacatuṣṭayam, which is a very small part of vivekacūḍāmaṇi. It's very small, and maybe about 13 to 14 verses out of the 540 verses from vivekacūḍāmaṇi, but yet it is so important, and it is like considered to be an indispensable part of the spiritual practices. Adi Shankaracharya has included in not only in vivekacūḍāmaṇi, in his other compositions like Aparokshanubhuti in the 8th century or in the beginning of 9th century when he composed vivekacūḍāmaṇi, and then also vivekacūḍāmaṇi and Aparokshanubhuti, and 500-600 years later Madhav or Vidyaranya Swami, when he composed another Prakarana Grantha, the introductory text to Vedanta, he also talks about the same Sādhanacatuṣṭaya in the Drag Drashya Vivek. That's another wonderful composition by Madhav Vidyaranya, and he also mentioned exactly the same thing, the Sādhanacatuṣṭaya, exactly the same thing. So I have picked up like from verse number 18 to 30 from vivekacūḍāmaṇi, and we'll start from those. The verse number 18 goes like this. Is Adi Shankara says, Sādhanacatuṣṭayam Kathitani Manishibi Yesu Satsveva Sannishta Yat Abhave Na Siddhyati. Means here Sādhanani Atra Chatvari Kathitani Manishibi. So here in this connection, the sages have talked about the 4 means or ways of attainment. By having those alone, the inquiry into the Brahma can be successful, and in the absence of which it is going to be a total failure. So in this connection we have to refer to the verse number 17. I didn't include in the textbook, but without referring to the previous verse, which is number 17, that's what it means that in this when he says Sādhanani Atra means here, or in this regard, or in this connection, the Shankaracharya refers to the previous verse, which is already gives us a bird's eye view of those 4 ways, or the Sādhanacatuṣṭayam. So there in the 17th verse it says, Vivekino Viraktasya samadhi, the vivekino viraktasya samadhi gunasaline mumukshore brahma jigyasa yogyata mata. So he talks about the four things. Vivekino means the capacity to discriminate between the real and the unreal, temporary and the permanent. So all those things, one has to have that power of discrimination. Without that, that is the number one. Once a person acquires that power to discriminate between the real and the unreal, false and the truth, then the next quality comes is viraktasya, means the vairagya. Then only a person gets the inspiration to throw away the false and take only the truth. Throw away the impermanent and stick only to the permanent. So that is the next quality, is the viraktasya. And the samadhi gunasaline. Then he talks about the six, they call this shatak sampatti. Those are like the six treasures which are like the sama, dhamma, uparti, titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhan. So those are the six qualities, and each of them are really very, very important. Again, the sequence of these four Sādhanacatuṣṭaya is extremely important. And the last one is mumuksho revahi brahma jigyasa yogyata mata. So mumuksho means the intense desire to be free, intense desire for emancipation or for the freedom. Then alone we can have the Brahma Jigyasa. Now this word Brahma Jigyasa is very, very important. Where do we get this word Brahma Jigyasa? We get it in the Brahma Sutras. Brahma Sutra, yeah. See, that is, these are, interestingly, these three texts, that is the Brahma Sutras, the Upanishads, which come in the concluding part of the Vedas or in the Aranyakas, and then the Bhagavad Gita. These three form the Prasthana Traya, or the triple canons of the Vedanta philosophy. So, interestingly, it will be nice to know for us that Adi Shankara was the first person to write a commentary on the Brahma Sutras. In fact, you might be knowing that Vedvyasa himself is Adi Shankara's guru. Bhagavad Govind Padacharya had the vision of Vedvyasi, and he instructed him that you are going to get a disciple, ask him or request him to write a commentary on the my Brahma Sutras. And he did that, and before the age of 16, Adi Shankaracharya was finished the commentary on writing on all these Prasthanatraya or the triple canons. There is the Upanishads, and there are, I'm sure you know that there are 108 Upanishads. Actually, there were many, many more, but some of them are lost. But what are available today in today's world is only 108. And out of those, 11 are considered major. How do we distinguish between major and minor? Again, by Adi Shankara.
Yeah.
With the ones, 11 Upanishads that Adi Shankara has commented upon are considered to be the major Upanishads, and the remaining one are minor. Which are those the major ones? Starting from like Isha, Kena, Katha, Atreya, Taitriya, Mandukya, Mundaka, then Brihadaranyaka, Chandogya, then Taitriya I said already. Atreya, Taitriya I already said. The Sarvo, there are two more. Prashnoprashid is one, and the 11th one is Sarvesh. I'm just missing the name, slipping. But yeah, those are 11 are the major ones. So that's there. If you come back to the Brahma Sutras, the very first sutra in the Brahma Sutra is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. And there Adi Shankara mentions exactly about these four qualities. First he explains the word Atha. See, the literal meaning of the word Atha is now. That's the literal meaning. But Adi Shankara, when he writes in his commentary, he doesn't say now. He says thereafter. Thereafter what? Thereafter means, first of all, he says like whatever ashram a person is, So after finishing or after going through the required duties of that particular ashrama or whatever environment we are in, the family duties or the community, society, after finishing all our secular duties, that is the first part, and then also acquiring some preliminary qualifications from prerequisites. And those, he mentioned exactly these four things, like the vivek, vairagya, and shamadhi, shadak-sampatti, samadama, uparti, titiksha, saddha, samadhan, and the desire to liberation, that is mumukshutvam. He mentions exactly these four qualities. Once these four qualities are acquired, then we are eligible to inquire into the Brahman. And that's what it says, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Then Atha means thereafter, and Atha means therefore. So having finished the one's secular responsibilities, having acquired those preliminary qualifications, then alone a person is qualified to inquire into the Brahman, and that's really very, very important actually. So, in this verse number 17, is given like a preliminary. We are going to go through the details as we proceed forward from the next 6-7 days. But here in this verse, the number 17 gives us a glimpse of all those Sādhanacatuṣṭayas. It says vivekino viraktasya shamadhi gunsaline mumukshore vahi brahma jigyasa yogyata mata. So first let's talk about the vivek. Vivek is the faculty of discrimination. Most of the people, it is kind of lying dormant. It's either people do not have this capacity, or even if they have it, it's lying dormant. People don't have a tendency to use it, because most of the times we follow the dictates of the sensory system. It is so powerful, and it's really very, very important to have that capacity. And this is only a exclusive prerogative of the human beings, as we are going to talk about it when we come to that. And then comes the vairagya. After having acquired this capacity to discriminate between the real and unreal, then it should not be really, if we have really understood what is the real and what is unreal, and then only we can have the inspiration to discard the unreal and pursue only the real one. It's just like a student, we may want to recall our when we go to the school, how difficult it was for our parents to send us to school. The parents have to give so much of the temptation. You go to school, you will meet with some new friends, and you will nice classrooms, and you will play some new games like the football. Look at all these lousy games that you are playing right now. These all dirty friends you have. There you will meet some nice good friends. You will play some good nice games, and you will have very good life you will have. And then slowly he gets inspired, and then so in the same way, once we are convinced about the higher realities of life, then it should not be very difficult to discard the other unrealities of life. So it's very important. So that's vivek and vairagya. And then comes the shamadhi, shadak sampatti, samadhi gunsaline. So there, as we said, there are shama, dama, and uparati, titiksha, shraddha, and samadhan. Sama is like the control of the mind. Dama is control of the sense organs. Uparati is pretty much similar to the dama, but kind of withdrawal of the senses inside actually. So that is uparati, madhi gunsaline. And then uparati, titiksha. Titiksha is again the forbearance of all the pains. Most of the people, even the great ones, even if you talk about the incarnations, whether it is Rama or Krishna, or in the modern time Ramakrishna Paramahansa, or it is even Acharyaji himself, everyone has to go through a lot of pains and problems. So to forbear them, that's what we are going to discuss, how to with a cheerful disposition, how to endure those pains and sorrows of life. That is called titiksha. And then the most important quality, the Shraddha. Without Shraddha, nothing, absolutely no progress can be expected in the spiritual life. Shraddha means the faith. Actually, there is no, truly speaking, there is no right word for the word faith. In English language, there is no correct word exists for the Shraddha actually. Nearest word we can find is the faith. But faith again is what? Is like just believe, a blind belief in what somebody else says. So that's what it is. But the Shraddha is a very dynamic quality, and it is based on the viveka. Once we have really assimilated the difference between the real and unreal, and then we try to finding the truth out of it. Once somebody says, once either we read in the scriptures or we listen to the lecture, some teacher, guru says us that okay, this is the fact, this is the truth. Like for example, let us take the word Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi, let's say, you are that. So normally if you tell to a person who have not gone through any of these four qualities, oh, I am God, what nonsense are you talking? He will not have any inclination to believe. But yet the scientists of the Upanishads, they have done a lot of research. Just like today's our scientists in the world of physics, chemistry and other engineering sciences, they are doing years and decades of research, and they are coming out with lot of patents and lot of all this scientific progress that the today's world has made. It is nothing but a Shraddha. As a result of the Shraddha, of course, in the outside nature, in the outer nature. In the same way, the scientists of the Upanishads or the scriptures, they have done also the same kind of research in the internal nature. And they have found out the truth, and that's how they came up with this truth, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. And if we have a little inclination, if we have these qualities like the Vivek, Vairagya and Shraddha, then we believe, okay, yes, this is something that is beyond our reach of the five sense organs. Something which is beyond the five sense organs. So I have to investigate. So this is what it is. The Shraddha is subjecting it to the evidential test and then converting the belief into the truth is what is called the Shraddha. Converting the belief into the truth. Otherwise it just remains, we don't really want to swallow what the teacher has said or what is written in the book. We don't want to do that. That's not going to help us. We will still remain blind. So that is what, and then it is the mumukshva. Mumukshvatva means the desire to liberation. So these four qualities, first of all, they are all really interrelated with each other, and one is complementary to the other. For example, if we have acquired this quality of the Vivek alone, that will help us as the Vairagya, and then the Vairagya will help cultivate these qualities like the six, which are like we can call it abhyas or practices, like how to control the mind, how to calm down the mind, how to control the senses. They will, and then the uparati, how to withdraw those mind, how to withdraw these senses inwards and from outside to inside. All these things will come automatically once we acquire one quality. So they are all like complementary to each other. And then the last one is mumukshvatva, the desire to liberation actually, the strong desire to liberation. Towards the end of this section, we will know that desire have to be very, very strong. It's like a mild or a mediocre. It's not really going to help us. We are not going to gain much out of by having only a mild or a mediocre of this mumukshvatva and vairagya, especially these two qualities. Acharya is going to say in the later verses that vairagya and mumukshvatva has to be extremely strong and intense. A strong vairagya and an intense desire for liberation, these alone can inspire us to practice those samadhi, shadak sampatti, and then we can mastery of all the Sādhanacatuṣṭayam, and we can get into that. So now this mumukshutva, if you talk about mumukshutva to a layman, that the desire to be freedom. Very likely we are going to come across the question, mumukshutva, free? What are you talking about? You mean to say that I am bound right now? That's very interesting. That's the most interesting part of it. When most of us, or I would say all of us are bound, and most of us, we don't even know about it. We are bound and yet we don't even know about it. That's something maybe I can tell you a story about this that you might be convinced. We are talking about mumukshutva, and what I'm saying is, if you talk to a lay person and tell him that these are the Sādhanacatuṣṭayam Acharyaji has mentioned, vivek, vairagya, samadhi, shatak sampatti, and then mumukshutva. He said mumukshutva is a desire for liberation. And he might ask, what? Liberation? Liberation from what? Am I bound right now? So that's the most interesting, or I would say the most miserable part of it. Most of us are bound and we don't even know that we are bound. So a story might explain it better. It's Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to tell this. So there is the fisherwoman, they used to catch fish in the sea, and every day they will go and then they will come back. One day there was a storm in the sea, and it was quite night when they were coming back, and it was dark, and they decided to spend the night somewhere on the way. So they found there was a flower shop. So they requested the owner of the flower shop, can we spend the night here? Early morning we will leave and all that. He said, yeah, okay, here is the shop, you can put some kind of a mattress, sleep here, and morning you can leave. So they slept on the flower shop. They couldn't get sleep through the whole night. Why? Because of the fragrance of the flowers. They are in their house, all kinds of fish, stinking fish smell. That's what they are used to it. That's what they are used to it. The stinking fish smell. So with this fragrance, good, very beautiful fragrance coming from the flowers, they can't absorb and they can't get a good sleep. That's interesting. So one of the ladies was quite clever actually. So she went outside and picked her fish basket, put it around her head, then she was able to sleep very nicely. So that's the condition with us. We have trained our minds to consider this pain as the pleasure. All this pleasure that we get out of these sense objects, and not realizing that the end is all pain. Yes. And we have trained our mind, we consider this as pleasure, and we are all happy with all this money, power, position, big house, big car that we have. We think this is all about the life and we are quite happy about it, and we don't realize how much bound we are. So that's what Swamiji says. I'll move over from Shankaracharya to Swami Vivekananda. See, he composed a very beautiful composition here in Thousand Island Park in the year 1894, in Thousand Island Park. That is composition is called Song of Sannyasi. So why he didn't compose in Sanskrit? He composed it in English. The purpose of that was to give a message to the world, because in the West, in the Western Christianity and the other religions, Jewish or other religions, this renunciation, the sannyas and all those things, the concept does not exist. Song of Sannyasi, that's why he composed it in English, so the message can reach to the Western world immediately. Okay. So there are 13 passages in this connection. One of them is very relevant, so I'll try to say that. He says, strike off thy fetters, the bonds that bind thee down, of shining gold or darker, baser ore, love, hate, good, bad, and all the dual throngs. Those are all binding. And then, no slave is slave, caressed or whipped, not free. For fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind. Then, off with them, sannyasin bold, say, Om Tat Sat Om. Every passage ends with this word, sannyasin bold, say, Om Tat Sat Om. So, the last word is very important, last sentence. Caressed or whipped, not free. 4 fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind. So we feel we are in the golden chain, but we don't realize that we are bound, but of course by the golden fetters. But whether the iron chain or a golden chain, both are same, both are equally strong to bind. So we are bound, and unfortunately we don't understand this. So that's the problem. So that's about this mumukshutva. And one thing I didn't mention in the beginning, that when Acharyaji, how about his humbleness and how is, what do you call it, the modesty and humbleness. When he says, Sadhana anyatra chatvari kathitani manishibhi. Even the Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya, he doesn't want to take the ownership of this Sādhanacatuṣṭayam, even though he is the creator of this in both vivekacūḍāmaṇi as well as the other composition, Aparokshanubhuti. And yet he says this has been told by the sages in the past. So this tells me 2 things. First of all, it tells about the modesty and the humbleness of Acharyaji. See, today, suppose if we invent something in your work or in my work, I have invented something, I show it to my boss that here, see, this is the experiment, we developed this, and you know what he says? Talk to the legal department, file a ROI. ROI means the record of invention. Record of invention. So with that, what they do is the legal department goes and does some research, and we can file for a patent. So somebody else does not copy our process, and we have the copyright over that new technology, new process. This is very first thing that we do. Everywhere it's there. In all, not only in the US, all countries it is there. Record of invention, then a patent, and then this legal people, they will do the research and all that, and make sure that somebody else has not put this already in their for I think there is a time limit, 50, 60 years or something like that. So if it doesn't find, then okay, your patents are published and you own that process actually. But Acharyaji is a great, so much work he has done in the short life of 32 years, and yet he doesn't want to take responsibility. Kathitani manishibi. This is the importance of this. Apart from his humbleness and this thing, but another thing that he suggests to me is in this Sanatana Dharma, where Hinduism we can call it Sanatana Dharma, how old the tradition is. The transfer of knowledge from generation to generation for not decades or centuries, but millenniums of years. Several millenniums that knowledge is being transferred from the disciple by the word of mouth, and how strong that transfer of knowledge is, really very, very strong. So that's why he used the word Kathitani Manishibi. And then we come to the second line of the verse number 18. It says, Yeshu Satsveva Sannishta Yat Abhavena Siddhyati. So here, the reason I referred to the verse number 17 was this. That's what he is referring to. But while these 4 qualifications are present, then alone one can succeed in the Brahma Jigyasa. That's why we have to refer to the previous. That's why he says Sadhanani atra chatvari. Atra means here, means he says in this connection the sages have specified 4 means of attainment. Sādhanacatuṣṭayam has been referred to, and that's what he's mentioning. So that Brahma Jigyasa has to come from the previous verse number 17. So Yesu Satsveva Sannishta Yad Abhavena Siddhyati means when these 4 qualities or the 4 qualifications are present, then alone one can be successful in the Brahma Jigyasa. Not that he can the Brahma Gyan. He doesn't say Brahma Gyan, Brahma Jigyasa. We are still inquiring into the Brahman, but without this qualification we can't even inquire. Can you imagine that? Let me just give an example. I mean, it's very common. When our mind is disturbed, say somebody has abused, or say, let's say we had a fight with our boss or with our spouse or somebody in the community, and then we come and sit into a lecture of Gita or Adi Shankara lecture or Sādhanacatuṣṭayam lecture. We hear the lecture for hour and 2 hours maybe. How much is going? Nothing is going to go into the mind. It's go from one ear to another ear. Because what? Why? Because the mind is disturbed. So therefore these are important. Therefore, these qualities are very extremely important, and they have been specified as and then he says the same thing, yat abhave nisiddhati. In the absence of these qualities, even the Brahma Jigyasa is not going to be successful, no matter how much we study. We may be super intelligent, like having a very high IQ. We might be reading the scriptures every single day. We might be remembering the whole of Bhagavad Gita, all the Upanishads, and also we might have acquired a lot of, but these qualities are very important. It's just like in the colleges, and universities, you want to get admission into some school for such and such course, then they will mention about the prerequisites. That for this particular course, you must have had this many credits in such and such courses, and you have had this. We understand what is meant by prerequisites. So those prerequisites we have to take before we are able to enroll ourselves into that course. Very important. This not only in this country, in India also they are more advanced nowadays. The education system. So, or consider it this way. Let's take a boy who has just completed the high school, the 10+2, and we put him into a postgraduate class. He's skipping the bachelor's degree, put him into a postgraduate class. We know he's going to be 100% failure because he has not completed something intermediate, he has skipped. So, same thing here. In the absence, yad abhave nisiddhati. In the absence of these four qualifications, even the Brahma Jigyasa is not going to be successful at all. So that's what it says. So, on the other hand, we may have some kind of a misconception that, I am so intelligent, I will take care. Even though if I have not taken those prerequisites, I am intelligent, I will take care. Or I read so much scriptures, especially when we come to this Brahma Jigyasa, I read Bhagavad Gita every day. I remember all of the Bhagavad Gita. I remember all the 700 slokas of Bhagavad Gita. All the Upanishads, 108 Upanishads, I have memorized. I remember everything. And then the other thing, Purana, this mythology, this, I know everything. So why can't I do the Brahma Jigyasa? You know what Adi Shankaracharyaji says about this? In the vivekacūḍāmaṇi itself, he says very beautifully. In one place he says, Sabdajalam maharanyam chitta brahmana karanam atha prayatnat gyatavyam tattvagyesh tattvam atmana. Sabdajalam maharanyam. This is a dense forest of the words. Sabdajalam maharanyam, the deep forest. Sabdajalam maharanyam chitta brahmana karanam. That can make our mind reeling and reeling. It can rotate at a very high speed. That intellectual gyrations of the mind, that's all it will do. Nothing else. It will not take it. So therefore, he says atah, means therefore. Also he gives the second line of there is another verse in vivekacūḍāmaṇi. The Sabdajalam maharanyam chitta brahmana karanam atha prayatnat gyatavyam. So therefore, one has to exert himself or herself, apply efforts in order to know what? Tattvagyesh tattvam atmana. In order to know this Atma or the Brahma, or we can give any name. Like see, the Christ called it the kingdom of heaven. Buddha called it the light of the truth. Vivekananda called it the spark of divinity. We can call it Atma, we can call it Brahman, or we can call it the pure consciousness, the very high technical term in Vedanta, right? Give it any name, call it by any name you want, but to know the truth, we have to exert. By the intelligence alone, or is not going to be sufficient. So that's what Shankaracharya says about the scriptures. Now, somebody has also acquired the ability to give some very powerful lectures using a very high-sounding language and all those things. Then about that, you know what Shankara says? Vag vekhri shabdajari sastra vyakhyan kausalam vaidushyam vidusam tadvat bhuktaye natu muktaye. What beautifully says. Vag vekhri means the eloquence of speech, eloquence of shabdajari, using very high-sounding philosophical words and bombarding and confusing people. So, Vag vekhri shabdajari sastra vyakhyan kausalam, the ability to expound and explain the scriptures. What are these? What are these things? Vedusham Vedusham Tadvat Bhuktaye Natu Muktaye. Means the learned people, the Vidwan people or the learned people, these are only for the enjoyments of the learned people. That's all. And this will lead to the enjoyment, means Bhuktaye means to the enjoyment only, not necessarily to Mukti or not to the liberation or knowing the truth about the Atma, or when we come to our term, Brahma Jigyasa. It will not lead to the path of Brahma Jigyasa at all. So that's what it is. That is the importance that I was planning to cover today. And I was expecting a lot of questions. So if you have questions, then probably that might be a more lively discussion actually. So if we have some questions, we can have some more discussion about this.
See, end of the day, everything is through word.
Through
word, all our understanding is through word. Whereas experience is something that cannot be put into word.
Right. See, that's what in the Bhagavad Gita also it says Jnana and Vijnana. The Krishna says Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyami sesta yad gyatva neha bhuyo gyatavam avasishyate. In the 7th chapter starting he says, I am going to tell you this Jnana and Vijnana. Having known this, nothing else remains to be known. So what Jnana is the scriptural knowledge. The knowledge that we get by reading the scriptures. And then Vijnana is putting it to the experience, making the truth out of it. Like let me give you another example. Okay, someone tells you about the fishing. Okay, so someone says, okay, you have to fishing. You say, I want to start fishing. I want to go and catch fish in such and such place. All right, buy a fishing hook, and in this place you put the bait, and then the rope, and then put it down, and you will catch the fish. And you go there, first day you don't catch the fish, and second day no fish, nobody from fish came. The third day you found some fishes. So then you realize, okay, you found the truth out of the belief has come into the truth. We have come to the truth. In the same way, when the scriptures have come to this, that Tattvam Asi, you are that. They have not said just by a fluke of the mind. They have also based on their Vijnana, means making the Jnana their own experience, making whatever they have learned by the scriptures, they have made it their own experience, and that's what Vijnana is about. So convert that whatever we have learned from the scriptures by reading or by hearing into our own experience, and that's what is Vijnana, and that's what leads to the truth actually. Just like even in the secular area, we have classroom in physics, in our high schools also. We have classrooms, the professor or the teacher will come and teach us the theory. Also we have laboratories. So there we go in the laboratory, they will define, okay, do such and such experiments, and then you will come to know such and such thing will come actually. So that's what we are. So here also the same thing. In the science of the spirituality, it's first that's not exactly in this, it has been designed, the three process, Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Sravana is by listening, not necessarily by reading, either by reading or by listening or doing something. So that is Sravana. And then Manan means reflecting on what has been heard about, what has been heard, reflect it, and then contemplate on this. Nididhyasana is a little more deeper process, which is kind of contemplation. So that's what, by doing these three processes, Sravana, Manan and Nididhyasana, we come to the Vijnana part of it, the truth part of it. That's when we make our reading and hearing has been turned into our own experience, and it has been converted into the truth actually. So that's
see, the only difference between the physics example you said about the laboratory, here our mind is the laboratory, our mind is the instrument.
Exactly.
And thoughts are kind of coming at a rapid pace, and the whole idea is we have to go inside, deep inside to understand the true nature of ourselves. So that kind of process, we are not used to. We are never. At least all the schooling we have done. We have never been exposed to our own culture, of course, even in India.
Yes, that's very true actually. So that's what this 14 verses that we are planning to discuss in the next 7 days. This will tell actually the withdrawal of the mind. So the uparati, like the shamadhi shadak sampatti. Shama is first control of the mind, and dhamma is control of the sense organs, the 5 organs of perception and the 5 organs of action. How we have to control them. And then uparati is a withdrawal of the turning them inward. So Krishna gives a very beautiful example. He gives example of a tortoise. Yada in the 4th chapter it is. No, I'm sorry, 2nd chapter. 2nd chapter in the Chitta Pragya section. Yada sangarate chayam kurumongani sarvase indriyani indriyartebhya tasya pragya pratishtita. He's talking about the characteristics of a man of steady wisdom. And he gives the examples of this tortoise. The tortoise, he has a shell, it's almost like an elliptical shell, not exactly round, but an elliptical shell. And then he has 6 limbs, that the 4 legs, 1 head and 1 tail, 6 limbs. And the way he sits, sometimes when he walks, he will walk with all the 6 limbs are outside, but when he sits, he will withdraw all the 6 limbs into the shell, and he will sit just like a disc on the ground. And Krishna, how much observant they are.
They are deeply observant.
Deep observant. So he has observed into the nature, this tortoise, and so we also have 6 actually, with the 5 organs of perception. Those are the main thing. Organs of action will just listen to what you tell them. But organs of perception, controlling them is most important. We have 5 organs of perception, and then their boss is the mind. So we also have 6. So that's what in the yoga philosophy, the same thing has been described as pratyahar. Yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, then pratyahar. Pratyahar is withdrawal of the senses inwards. And by default, see the nature, the God or the nature has designed these senses to move outwards only. Very beautiful verse in Kathopanishad. He said, Paranchikhani vetranat swayambhu tasmat paran pashyati na antaratmani kasyat dhira pratyak atmanam ekshat avratya chakshu amrtatvam icchan. See how beautifully the Upanishad sages of the Upanishad. Paranchikhani vetranat means by default our sense organs are designed to go outwards only. They can see only. Suppose if something comes in front of your eyes are not going to ask for your permission whether I should look at that or not. If there is some noise in the environment, ears are not going to ask for our permission whether I should hear this sound or not. They will just hear because they are designed to go outwards. Same thing, if the smell is coming, the nostrils are bound to get that smell. They will not take our permission because they don't listen to us anyway. So that's what the Upanishad says, Paranchikhani Vetranat Swambhu. The great Lord, Swambhu means the great Lord, has designed, by great Lord means the nature. Lord doesn't do anything, Prakriti does. Prakriti or Maya or whatever you want to call it. So Prakriti has designed this, our sense organs to go outward only. Tasmat Paran Pashyate. Therefore we see only what is happening outside. We never bother or take the time to see what is happening inside. Tasmat Paran Pashyati na antaratmani. The inside Atma we never bother to see. We never bother to see what's going on inside. A lot of fight is going on, a lot of disturbance is going on the inside. We never take time to go inside. But it's not with everybody. Again, it is our human alones have this higher cerebral system by using which we can do that. We can move inward. So Kasyat Dhira, very rare few intelligent ones. Dhira means intelligent ones. Kasyat means extremely rare few intelligent ones. Kasyat Dhira, Pratyak Atmanam Akshat. They have a Sakshatkar with the Atma, which is, again, you can call it like a pure consciousness or the Brahm or self or whatever you want. Kasyat Dhira, Pratyak Atmanam Akshat. How do they do it? avrat chakshu, by turning the eyes, means eyes represent only the one, but all the five, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasha, gandha, those five sense perceptions that we have, by turning them from out, turning the direction from outside to inside, kasyat dhira pratyek atma, avrat chakshu, and why do we do it? Amritatvam icchan, in order to attain that immortality. So, this is what the Kathopanishad says. And the yoga philosophy, this the Vedanta philosophy is, like I told you about the triple canons of Vedanta, the Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, those are the Prasthanatrayas. And so that philosophy is the greatest. I mean, there is Vivekananda and Ashtavakra. People have talked so great about this Vedanta philosophy. You might be knowing about the other saint about 400 years ago, Madhusudan Saraswati, you know.
Yeah, he wrote Tika.
Is a Bhagavad Gita commentary. What is his name actually? Gudarth Deepika. Gudarth Deepika. He wrote it in Sanskrit, and it was translated by one of the Swamis of the Ramakrishna order, the Swami Gambhirananda. In fact, he is the one who translated Shankaracharya's Brahma Sutras also. Most of the Upanishad he is translated. Gambhirananda, he passed away in the late 90s, last century. So the Madhusudan Saraswati, originally he was inclined toward the other philosophy, you know, Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa was designed by or started by Jaimini, Vyasa's disciple. He read Purva Mimamsa first, and he was so much convinced about Purva Mimamsa that he thought, I am going to establish this Purva Mimamsa philosophy as the highest philosophy out of the six. We have six systems of philosophy, right? The Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa is Vedanta, then the Yoga, Patanjali, Sankhya by Kapila, and then the Nyaya by Kanad, and Vaisheshika by Gautam Rishi or something like that. So there are six systems of philosophy, and he said he has a big ambition to prove the Purva Mimamsa philosophy as the greatest philosophy. So he said that, and then he wanted to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he couldn't do it. And then somebody suggested, if you want to prove it, you have to study Vedanta also. Otherwise, how are you going to say that this is better than Vedanta? So he studied Vedanta, and guess what? He got sold out to Vedanta. He thought that no, nothing is better than Vedanta, because that can accommodate everything. The things like Tattvam Masi, Aham Brahmasmi, it accommodates everything. Even it is Sankhya has been adopted into Vedanta to a certain extent, but yet there are some very subtle differences between Sankhya and Vedanta. Okay, so that's what I mean. The Vedanta philosophy is the greatest. The point I was trying to make is yoga philosophy in the 2500 years ago, when this says Patanjali came, he gave us those Ashtanga Yoga, Sutra and all that. The point I was trying to make is it goes very much hand in hand. There is no controversy with Vedanta. Only thing is it's more technical, more scientific. You can, it's more scientific. Now, how to explain it? So, Vedanta is little bit, we have to make some assumptions and all that. Yoga philosophy is absolutely scientific. Everything is scientific in that. So there, the same thing that we discussed is called pratyahar. Like the example I gave you, the Kurvo Nganim Sarvasat from Bhagavad Gita. He calls it in the yoga philosophy the fifth step, the yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar. Fifth limb, or out of the Ashtanga Yoga, the fifth anga or the fifth limb is called as pratyahar. So pratyahar pratyahar is exactly the same thing. Withdrawing all the senses inwards. Means saswarupa. Withdrawing the senses and the mind and the consciousness inward towards the seer, and withdraw them from the contact with the senses. Svavishya samprayoge chittasya swarupanukar ivendriyanam pratyahara. Svavishya samprayoge chittasya swarupanukar ivendriyanam pratyahara. Means withdrawing all the senses, mind and the organs from contact with the senses and turning them inwards towards the seer is called pratyahara. That is the fifth limb. After the yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, then comes the practices like dharana, dhyan and samadhi. So that state of samadhi is as good as Atma Sakshatkar. You know, according to the yoga philosophy, Vedanta, you realize that you aham brahmasmi, I am that pure consciousness. Tattvamasi, you are also that. Everybody is like that. I am Atma Brahman. This Atma is Brahman. And same thing. But that is the state of samadhi from the yoga philosophy. So that's what is the Svavishya Samprayoge Chittasya Swarupanukar Evindriyanam Pratyahara. So yes.
See, yesterday my wife was asking a question, in another class. So this is about, she gets into everything about, is there anything definitions for Advait, in the Advaitic way, like for yoga, in the yogic tradition, Patanjali tradition, it's the body-mind balance, right? You involve the body, to do the experiment on your body, and then you do all that, meditation. Everything is through body and mind balancing and all that. Whereas in Advait, there is not two things. You got only one thing.
You start.
Does yoga has a different definition in Advaitic terms, or is it the same definition as Patanjali's yoga is? What do you mean by yoga means to yoke, right? To yoke means to
actually the literal meaning of the word yoke means to join.
Join, correct.
Okay.
But
join
two things have to be there to join, right?
Yeah, literally yes. The literal meaning is to join together two things, but join what with what? The individual soul with the cosmic soul.
Yeah, that's what we said.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
Individual soul with the cosmic soul.
Consciousness to the actual consciousness, which is omnipresent as well as it's present in you. Right?
So the universal consciousness, we have to merge with the universal consciousness, and this has been, the Vedanta philosophy says the same thing. Even the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasya ham na pranashyami sa cha me na pranashyati. One who sees me in all the beings and all beings in me, he never gets far away from me, nor do I ever get far away from him. But he sees.
We are in the 9th chapter, this sloka, the Ananya Chittayanto Mam.
Ananya Chittayanto Mam, exactly, yeah.
That's the
Ananya Chittayanto Mam, Yejana Pariupaste, Esam Nityabhyuktana, Yoga Kshemam Mahamya. Yeah. But the 13th chapter also. Samam Sarveshu Bhuteshu Tishtantam Parameshwaram Vinashyatsu Avinashyantam Yah Pashyati Sa Pashyati. The one who sees the great Lord sitting in the heart of all the beings, and one who sees that imperishable in the midst of the perishable ones, he alone sees. Means the rest of the people are not able to see. That's the great thing. And then the Upanishads, same thing. Upanishads say the same thing. Ishavashyam idam sarvam yat kimcha jagatyam jagat tena tektena bhunjeta ma gradha kashyash vidhanam. Cover the whole thing by the Lord. Everything that we perceive, this prapanch, this outside universe, prapanch, what do you mean by prapanch? Means what we perceive with the help of our 5 organs of perception. That is called prapanch. And this visible universe, that's what we perceive with the help. So this prapanch, we have to cover with the God. We have to see God in everything. That's when we talk about vairagya, we are going to see that. The vairagya means not just indiscriminate, running away, go and sit in a cave in Himalayas. Krishna doesn't say even once in Bhagavad Gita. That's the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. Not even once he says that you give up your family life, wife, children, go and sit in a cave and meditate, and then, no. And yet, the beauty of Bhagavad Gita is yet, how many places Krishna talks about the sannyas yoga. He talks about sannyasa all the time, starting from the 5th chapter. So this is the misconception about vairagya. Many, especially in the place like India, and how many fake sannyasis are there. And the reason Krishna gives in half a verse, he gives the reason. Why we have fake sannyasis, so many. In 5th chapter there is a beautiful verse. He says, Sannyasastu Mahabaho Dukkham Aptum Ayogata Yogiktor Munirbrahm Nachirena Adhigachati. Sannyasastu Mahabaho Dukkham Aptum Ayogata. Means this sannyas is extremely difficult to attain without the yoga. Means first we have to learn the technique of yoga as said in Bhagavad Gita. What is the technique? He says, Karmanne vadiga raste ma phaleshu kadachne. Do your duties, don't expect the fruits. And yet, the next chapter he says, Yagyarthat karmanavanyatra loko ayam karma bandhane. Whatever you do, whatever actions we perform, other than those done in the service of the world, are going to be binding. So do everything for the sake of others, as a good to the others, good to the world. Only those actions are not going to bind us. Rest everything is going to bind us. Without having practiced these techniques, which he calls as yoga, and if someone just takes a sannyasa, because for some reason, let's say there's some problem at home, wife has died, money has been lost, or for some reason, then there may be a vairagya in him, but eventually some bad thing is going to come out, because those vasanas is very difficult to, what do you call that? Yeah. So it's very difficult. That's why he says, Sannyasastu mahabhav dukkham aptum ayogita. So that in the why people take sannyasa in the, you probably may not be knowing Hindi, but Ramcharitmanas, in this temple also they recite Tulsidasji, who is written Ramcharitmanas. He says very beautifully in the Uttarakhand, he says about why people take sannyasa, especially in this Kaliyo. He talks about, he says, a very nice chopai he writes, Nari mui graha sampati nasi, mood mudai hui sannyasi. Means Nari mui means the wife has died. Graha sampati nasi means all the wealth has been lost in the stock market or fire or some catastrophe or something or the other. Then what is the easiest path? Mood mudai. Shave the head and become a sannyasi. It's the easiest thing. So if we become sannyasi, that's why we hear every day, you hear in the newspaper about the fake sannyasis in India doing this rape, that baba, that ma. So all these problems are there. Because that's why this Bhagavad Gita is never even once he says that it's sannyasi, but yet he talks about the sannyas yoga. 6th chapter is anasrita karma phalam karyam karam karoti hai sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriya. Anashrita karma, one who is completely independent on the fruits of the action. He is a sannyasi, also he is a yogi. He is a sannyasi. He doesn't have to shave his head and leave children, family and sit in a cave. No. He is a great sannyasi. That's what the real sannyasa, real vairagya. We are going to talk about some of this vairagya also. One of the very second one. The first one is vivek, then is the vairagya, and vairagya means iha mutra phal bhoga viragas tadanantaram. The second quality is the dispassion about the fruits of action here as well as hereafter. Both are important, and we will discuss in details how they are important, why they are important. So good questions. Anything else, Karthik ji?
Yeah, no, we can with prayer.
Okay, so we'll say the prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.